two houses on the same street, one sells for £100,000 more than its neighbor, all because of an invisible line drawn 80 years ago. Britain's most expensive streets are not shaped by architecture or postcode, but by grammar school catchment boundaries set in 1944. The result is a decades-long wealth divide, where a single address can shape a family's future. How did a simple rule become the hidden engine of inequality? In 1944, a single piece of legislation set the ground rules for who could attend which schools in England and Wales. The Education Act of that year introduced the tripartite system, dividing state-funded secondary education into three types: grammar schools for the academically selected, secondary moderns for the majority, and technical schools for a smaller group. Entry to grammar schools depended on performance in the 11+ exam, but the real gatekeepers were the catchment boundaries drawn around each school. These lines dictated who could even take the test, let alone secure a place. Over the decades, education policy shifted. The push for comprehensive schools in the 1960s and 70s aimed to break down selection and make access more equal. Yet grammar schools survived in certain regions, holding tight to their boundaries and their academic entrance tests. Meanwhile, new types of schools arrived: academies and free schools, which began to expand in the early years of the 21st century, gained autonomy over their admissions policies. While still required to follow the National School Admissions Code, these schools could set their own criteria, including defining their own catchment areas or giving priority to siblings or children of staff. Today, the admissions landscape is a patchwork. Some areas have only comprehensives, others keep a network of selective grammars. Academies and free schools operate with more independence than ever, but all are bound by the invisible lines first drawn in the 1940s. For families, these lines remain the difference between a place at a prize school and a place on the waiting list. The pattern is simple, but its effects run deep. When a school earns a reputation for excellence, families with the means to move begin to cluster just inside the catchment line. Over time, these families bring more than just higher property values, they bring extra resources. Parent-teacher associations in these areas collect thousands of pounds each year, funding everything from new computers to after-school clubs. Voluntary donations become routine, and school fees can raise as much in a day as some schools manage in a term. This extra money translates into better facilities and more opportunities, which in turn help boost exam results and Ofsted ratings. Success breeds demand. As word spreads, more families compete for the same limited number of houses inside the catchment, driving prices up year after year. The effect compounds with each generation. Children from well-off families benefit from enriched learning environments, while their parents' fundraising and professional networks open even more doors. The school's standing rises further, attracting even more affluent buyers. For families on lower incomes, these rising prices quietly close the door. The best state schools, once created to lift up the talented, regardless of background, now become out of reach for many of the children they were designed to serve. The invisible lines drawn decades ago turn into barriers, dividing not only neighborhoods, but also futures. This is how a single policy choice, multiplied over decades, transforms the definition of opportunity into something you can buy, if you can afford the postcode. Across England, the numbers are clear. Properties within the catchment area of a top-performing primary school sell for an average of 8% more than comparable homes just outside the line. That difference, measured nationwide, translates to an extra £18,600 on the price of an ordinary family house. For secondary schools, the premium averages nearly 7%, or about £15,800. In London, the effect grows even sharper. Homes near the most sought-after primary schools command an extra £38,800, and in some cases, The gap between similar houses on either side of a catchment boundary stretches well past 100,000 pounds. These figures come from national property valuation studies that tracked thousands of transactions against school performance and admissions data. The uplift is not tied to size, age, or garden space. It is the invisible geography of school access that drives the difference. In some neighborhoods, the catchment area is so precisely drawn that a few meters can mean tens of thousands of pounds. The premium is not just a statistic, it is a cash calculation that shapes family budgets and mortgage applications. For parents, the 8% uplift can mean the difference between stretching for a deposit or stepping back from a dream school. This is the financial reality that makes catchment boundaries more than just lines on a map. Each year, estate agents study school admission data as closely as floor plans, knowing that a property's value often depends less on what is inside the house and more on which side of an invisible line it stands. Estate agents in grammar school, catchment hotspots, have turned catchment boundaries into a fine art. Listings in these areas rarely mention the number of bedrooms first. Instead, the headline simply says, "In catchment for," followed by the name of the prize school. It is not just a selling point, it is the main event. Agents keep detailed maps, often more precise than anything the council publishes. They know which side of a street is in or out, and they will coach buyers on exactly how far a house sits from the school gates. Some agencies even specialize in catchment area searches, offering clients tailored lists that filter out anything outside the line. For families who cannot buy, there is another tactic: renting. Short-term leases, sometimes just 6 months, serve one purpose: to secure an address for a school application. Landlords in these areas know the game, and rents climb accordingly. In some markets, a catchment area rental can cost 5 to 10% more than similar homes just out of bounds. The practice is so common that some agents offer catchment packages, bundling lease paperwork and proof of address guidance for anxious parents. After the school place is confirmed, many families move on, leaving the rental market to reset for the next wave. The cost calculus is stark. For a typical London catchment, the property premium can reach £38,800 or more, sometimes well past £100,000 for the most sought-after postcodes. Compare that to private school fees, which now average £18,000 per year per child, and the logic becomes clear. For families with 2 or more children, paying the catchment premium can be cheaper over the course of a primary or secondary education than footing private tuition. Some parents even plan to recoup the premium by selling after their children finish school, banking on the next generation of buyers eager to cross the invisible line. In 2021, Sutton Council launched an investigation into school admissions after a spike in suspicious applications. Inspectors uncovered a web of false addresses, rented flats, borrowed postcodes, and paperwork that did not add up. The council revoked 23 school places that year, each one the result of address fraud. Some families signed short-term leases on empty properties, never intending to live there, just to cross a catchment line. Others used relatives' addresses or forged tenancy agreements. The council fraud team checked utility bills, council tax records, and even made home visits. For parents, the risk was worth it. One forged document could mean a place at a top school and a 6-figure boost to property value. For the council, the message was clear: the invisible lines are now policed as fiercely as any border, and the pressure to cross them grows every year. On some streets, a single doorway decides a child's future. Parents speak of watching houses across the road sell for £100,000 more just because their side falls within the catchment of a top grammar or an Ofsted outstanding school. In Barnet, the Henrietta Barnett School catchment has sent local prices soaring and three-bedroom homes average £850,000, nearly double the national figure. In Buckinghamshire and Richmond, families pay premiums of 49% above the UK average to secure an address in the right zone. The list of hotspots stretches from Kent to the Cotswolds. Some councils try to break the link with lotteries or banding, but the postcode premium endures. For one parent, it feels like buying a ticket to a better life, if you can afford the price. The question remains, is this really fair? Today, a family's postcode can still dictate their future and their home's value. As school catchment premiums climb, invisible lines become real barriers. The map may look unchanged, but the cost of crossing those lines rises every year. The boundary isn't on the street, it's in our society.